Are you feeling burdened to the point of wanting to run away from something, or overwhelmed? Like, are you so overwhelmed by something that you just want to completely abandon it entirely? I'm not necessarily talking about a person here. This is not really relational, although I do have the Two of Cups, so that could apply to some of you. But what I'm about to say is where the Two of Cups comes in for me. Because I like how Chris Reck of Middlepond Tarot talks about the Two of Cups as it can be you and your higher self. And the reason why, I don't always look at it like that, but the reason why I'm really looking at it is because the bottom of the deck we have the Three of Cups. Now let me explain what I'm seeing here. A couple things. Say you are working on something. I also love how Sand Tarot talks about the fear threshold. Okay, it's going to come up in this message as well. If you're doing something new, like say for example you're writing a book. Let's just use that as an example, because this is my opinion. We can all write a book. Every single one of it. Well, I don't really have a story to tell. You have many things you've learned. You have many stories. Anyone can write a book. So that's my opinion. We all are the stars of our own movies, right? Probably just because I have a lot of Leo on my chart, but that's how I see it. If you're doing something that you feel, I'm not really seeing this as burden. I'm actually seeing it as like overload, like overwhelmed. My past business mentor, Sandy Krakowski, talked about the fact that, and she had 17 businesses. She's in copywriting marketing world. She talked about the fact that, and she was 60 at the time, she was in therapy, and she talked about the fact that she felt like she couldn't go into the stock market because she like wasn't smart enough, she wasn't capable enough, all of these reasons why she stayed away from the stock market all those years, even though she had plenty of experience in business and finance. And she talks about this. It's this feeling of feeling overwhelmed that makes you just want to give up and run away and walk away and put it aside. It doesn't even have to be dramatic. Like, I want to run away. It can just be like, this is a lot to handle right now in my life. Like, I've got to focus on the stuff that really matters. So what I want to talk about today is that, yes, there is a time for that. There is a time to prioritize things and be like, maybe I should be focusing on other stuff right now. If this is too overwhelming, if this is taking all of my attention, if this is taking all of my time, if this is taking all of my effort, and I'm having to do all this inner child work and all this shadow work just so I can do this thing, maybe I should walk away from it. But here comes the higher self, and here comes look, now there's 5. Here comes the guides. Here comes the higher intelligence. Before I shuffled at the bottom of the deck, I also had the Judgment card, right? Here come the angels to say there's a difference between knowing what to prioritize and knowing what things you need to set down, and running away or walking away or putting something down because it's challenging you. And that brings me back to what Sand Tarot talks about with the fear threshold. I trust Sand with my life. I don't know. I always end up with these Canadians in my life too. Okay. What I want to say about that, because we have the Four of Pentacles here as well. You may be feeling like it's a funny place to be. It's trapped. It's like not wanting to stop pushing past that fear threshold to become something bigger, to become something greater. You feel like you're right on the edge of greatness, the edge of glory, like you are challenging yourself, you're doing the shadow work, you're doing all these things that are helping to propel you in your life, and then it's like too late to go back to the old you. 444 on my clock right now. 4. It's too late to go back to that old you that was stuck, right? But maybe you feel like, oh my God, maybe I'm shooting too big. Maybe I'm shooting for the stars here, and I'm gonna fall flat on my face and look like a freaking idiot. Well, you might, first of all, and that's part of risk taking, right? So yeah, I'm not gonna pretend that couldn't happen. But if it does, what do? We just try it again. So what I'm here to talk about is, like, I'm not trying to say you should push yourself to the absolute limit of exhaustion, to the point where you have, where you're like breaking yourself down. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is I feel like in today's world, and this is probably controversial, but a lot of us are becoming pussies. Like, and I am like the number one person in the world to talk about how everybody's feelings matter, and everybody should be validated for their experiences, and everybody should be respected and heard. 555 as I'm saying this. But with that said, there's also the flip side of it. I feel like my generation, specifically, I'm 31, comes from this perspective of like, yeah, but we shouldn't push them too hard. Oh no, they're having a little bit of a problem here. We shouldn't push them too hard. It's like, okay, but how does anybody do anything great though? There's always two sides to this for me. It's like knowing when too much is too much, pushing yourself too far, but also at the same time knowing when we're just kind of taking the coward's way out and going back to our comfort zone. That's why, again, I bring it back to Santero. The fear threshold. She's been talking a lot about that in her readings recently. Go watch those, because especially the collective message that she just put out, where she talks about like the darkness is being released from like our consciousness, essentially, as a group. It's her most recent reading. I would go watch that. I would go watch a couple of those, because to me, San is not a reader. She's an oracle. This is not a promotion for San, by the way, but I just love her. She's an oracle, and she is somebody who's seeing the bigger picture, because it's not just typical tarot readings. But anyways, I trust San, and I don't trust. There are some readers I really trust. Chris Reck is another one. But anyways, I feel like what Spirit is pushing us to do right now, again, bringing it back to Chris with this higher self card. I think he's the only person I've seen speak about this card that way. Where it's like, this is a meeting between us and our higher self, where it's like we're carrying. I'm seeing this not as a burden today. I'm seeing this as feeling overwhelmed in the growth, and wondering if we should go back and settle for mediocrity and what we're used to, and just walk away from, detach from it, and just be like, oh, it's just easier. It's just easier. It's like, no. Now is not the time for easier. Now is the time to understand that we are surrounded by these light beings, and we're one of them, right? This life is about being who we really are in a world full of people who have forgotten who we are. To remind everybody who we are, remind ourselves. That's how I see it. So when we push past the overwhelm and feeling like we can't do it. I brought up my past business mentor, Sandy Kurkowski, because she talked a lot about the fact that when you are doing something big, when you are doing something that is just beyond what you're used to, you are going to bump up against all sorts of trauma reactions in the body. I actually initially got into parts work, IFS, because of Sandy. And I'm telling you guys, she's a very successful woman, 17 businesses. I was part of multiple things that she did for a few years, so I got to know her life as well. And she was somebody who from the outside looked like she had it all together, and yet she was, as a 60-year-old woman, in therapy, in no contact with her mother. And I'm not trying to like spew her news. She would tell you this. I'm just saying, it's like, my point with that is she always pushed us that when we're in this, I'm seeing all these wands right now, is like overwhelm, 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 which really could also be downloads, and that's another conversation entirely. You may be receiving downloads from your guides, from your spirit team, and that's also overwhelming you, where you're like, what do you mean I should do more and reach higher and be more and become more? I mean, this is me. This is just me. And they're saying, no, that's not you. You are capable of so much more. I feel like the divine right now is pushing all of us to become something more than what we've been. And if we can just push a little harder, not that you push yourself to the brink of exhaustion, but why is it so awesome and cool, right, with all the sports analogies? When we're talking about, like, oh, pushing past our, like, pushing past something to, like, write our book, we're like, oh, we should calm down now, but when it's like a freaking awesome sports analogy with the big music behind and everybody's lifting the weights and it's like the motivational narrator is in the background, it's like, and everybody has tears in their eyes and everybody's inspired. It's like, why is it awesome when somebody, like, breaks their leg and they rehabilitate and they come back stronger and better than ever? Why is it awesome in a sports context, but when it comes to these other areas of our lives, we're like, oh no, oh dear, oh my? It's like, you know what I'm saying. I think we should push past it. I think we should push through it. I think we should become it. I think we should tap in with our guides and rise to the occasion. And instead of running away from something or walking away from something, really, it's you're walking towards something with the Eight of Cups, not away. You're walking towards fulfillment. You're walking towards the Nine of Cups. So much love. That's my encouragement today. If you're trying to do something, you're trying to be something, you're trying to become something, if you're trying to do that, it's because you already are that already, and now you're just ready to level up, basically. Because you wouldn't be feeling that way if it wasn't already you to begin with. It's just a little tweaking here and there, and you already are it. So, much love.